Okay, I think we should
all
be able
ruined.
to hear you.
Yeah,
and you
it's
should be
okay.
able to hear me.
Can you hear me? Damn you!
Gathered toys.
Damn you, Sharktopus! No, it's all good. Oh yes, I think I had one of those too. Is that the toy?
that?
Yeah, it's the toy one. Yeah.
What is it?
I think
We
somewhere.
were talking earlier, and I really wanted to walk over and grab this, and I decided I wasn't going to do that. So anyway,
No, that's cool, man.
It's a Star Trek
That's
phaser.
Oh, okay.
It's an Enterprise
one of the-
phaser, right?
That's right. That's right. They released them as one of the first Star Trek toys that you could get was that phaser, and I remember opening it up because you could open it up and get the power cell out, but on the prop they had a little sticker that was like the name. It's like a phaser thing. It was actually on yeah you can pull it out, and I remember having to make the sticker and put it in. So when you open it up, it had this like red warning. It's like plasma pistol. Do not do this, that, and the other. They're awesome. They're awesome fun.
Hey,
Like it's a classic.
like Mego, maybe.
yes,
is there a walkie-talkie?
yes.
Yeah, but it's the Star Trek. Yeah, I don't have the other one. I only have one. But yeah, it's my Mego.
They're incredibly
communicator.
collectible.
Yeah.
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 You should
No,
see
I
Spock's on the other end. You can be
Yeah.
like, "Hello," and someone answers you. You're like, "Holy, you're my friend."
And then, and again, I think the Enterprise one. But I think maybe these came as a set. I don't remember.
Yeah, I believe they
I
did.
know I had this stuff. These are going to actually get used in the film that Gayle and I are working on because the brothers, I'm playing twin brothers, and the brothers are going to have a conversation at one point. And one of the brothers is a geek and a fanboy, and the other brother is just kind of very uptight and very not happy with life. And at one point in time, they're arguing, and I'm going to have the geek brother who's sitting at the table pick up one of his toys and go, Enterprise to my brother, lighten up, man. And so that's the kind of little in-joke that I think I could slip into the film and not get sued. If anybody tries to sue us, they're going to be like, okay, we're going to sue you guys. And then they're going to investigate it, and they're going to go, oh, we're not going to get any money out of them. That's going to be like trying to get blood out of a turnip.
If fanboys can be made and have like the guy who plays Darth Maul and go and drive up to Skywalker Ranch and film outside and all the rest of it, you'll be fine. They didn't get sued, so you're fine. You're fine with that sort of stuff. Awesome. It's good. Again, I have boxes, and when I eventually am able to find a place to live, I will go and get my boxes, and we'll do a show and tell, and I'll be all like,
yes,
here's my thing, and here's
yes,
this, and
oh my God,
we should do a show. That should be a show and tell, cinematic perspective, merchandise show and tell. We should do one of those.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're doing the podcast from our
toy room.
our Zen room, our toy room.
Yeah.
And the stuff that you're not seeing on camera, the toys and the model kits and the posters and the record albums is just astonishing. So yeah, we could do fully an hour of just
You can't see it, but I've got to my left. I have different versions of Soundwave, the Transformer, in boxes because that's me. I've got mask toys that I've been able to find because I enjoyed them as a kid. I've got like action figures. I've got the Indiana Jones Ra piece, and then I'm looking across and I'm like, that's the Scorpio from Blake 7 that I got to finish that I 3D printed. And actually this is kind of fun. This is the F, and if you take a look at it, you can see that they've got all these like little pieces there. So this was something that someone else had made, but this is going to be, I'm going to use ELY, and I'm going to recreate Flynn's arcade. Right?
Nice.
Yes, absolutely.
So there's and I'm going to create that and see if I can see. I'm actually thinking this would be really fun for logos and stuff in the background. So you could have like an EL, looks like a neon sign, and this guy created all the pieces for Flynn's Arcade. And I'm like, I'd love to have a sign that says Flynn's Arcade that I hit a button and it lights up.
That's totally cool. That's
What is EL wire?
Oh, okay, so EL wire is, the Tron suits in Tron Legacy that light up. So EL wire it's electroluminescence. So that's the EL, right? And the idea is it generates no heat, but it generates light. So you put a current through it, and it looks like 2.5 mil wire that you can wrap around things to do the outline. So a little bit like Automan, the TV show in the 80s,
which is available right now. EL Wire is available right now in the cosplay section.
At
big Michael,
wow,
next to the evil Ted molds.
Okay.
Yeah, so
You see, I actually have to go and get it from the suppliers. Like I had to buy it overseas because I don't have Michael's, and Evil Ted doesn't send the things to me.
I have to say though, and I just recently was at Michael's, and I was impressed as hell. First of all, the Evil Ted molds caught my eye, and I was like, "Oh, yeah. Evil Ted, my buddy." But then I started looking at all the different supplies they had, and when I saw the EL wire next to the Evil Ted molds, I was like, "Wow." I mean, even by my standards, I was like, "That's freaking cool. That's awesome." So yeah.
Well, I'm really hurt. For years, I mean, I have Evil Ted's phone number. We weren't able to match up when we first met because you had, and then we were going through photos, and I realized I was sitting down together with Evil Ted, and I've even tried to join or connect with Evil Ted on Facebook. I'm hoping that he'll listen to these podcasts and go, "That's the Gill guy? All right, cool, yeah, all right." The
only thing I can say to offer some sympathy and support is that he probably has a lot of people from around the world constantly trying to contact him and say, "Hey, Evil Ted,
be my friend."
But you, by sheer association with us, should be able to
and it hasn't happened.
Gauntlet.
It has not happened. It's a little bit like
I'm going to see Evil Ted in a couple weeks. I will say something to Evil Ted.
You know what? I'm going to tag him in the Facebook photo where we were all sitting there, and I'll be like, "Dude, you were at AFM, and you're snobbing me now? You're snobbing me? Seriously? Like,
dude, you didn't even sleep with me, so
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit like you were mentioning before. People were like, it's like, how do you get into conventions and how do you sign things? And I really wanted to be like, I was so hoping your answer would be like, I'm wide awake, bitch. Come on. Like,
I have a name tag. I have a nameplate that I have that I don't always put out. I'm not always in the mood. But I have a nameplate that I put on my convention table sometimes that says, I'm kind of a big deal. Which my mother got me. My mother got me that. So
your mother will always feel that way.
I had support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I had support. I'm the baby.
It is an interesting thing. I mean, we're joking about it and we're laughing about it, but I remember, and it even happens now, sometimes people will approach me and they're like, will you come and talk about this? And as a student filmmaker, there wasn't a lot of people who were doing genre stuff in the area that I was doing in Australia at an independent level. They were usually international projects, usually being funded from the States, and they happened to be on cable television. They were trying to get like a science fiction block, and they wanted to interview me on some of the stuff that I had done. And I actually said to them, why you want to interview me? I haven't done anything yet. Like, I haven't really done anything. I can talk to you about this stuff, but these are early days. And I remember saying, but I can get you in touch with this person who has worked on these shows. Would you like to talk to him instead? And I remember people saying to me all the time, why didn't you take it? I mean, like, all publicity is good publicity. And I was like, yes, but. And the but is...
That's how you end up being a Kardashian, and you don't want that.
Not just that, but I didn't want to be like, my what I'm going to be known for is coming, right? I'm not there exactly.
Okay.
And again, it was like, it was flattering, and it was really, really nice. But there's a part of me that, would I like to go and talk about these sort of things that we're talking on the podcast at the convention? Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we'll even get the opportunity to go and do one of these podcast episodes at a convention and get people asking us questions. That would be incredibly awesome. But do I also want to go up there and have, fame is a bitch. I have seen people melt down. I've seen people get so hurt that because people aren't recognized. I would rather stand in the back of a set and watch everything that's going up. And I do this. A very famous studio art director once said to me, I got to remember what he was doing. He said, when you go onto a set, I'm going to break it for everyone here, but when you go on the set and if they don't know you, first thing you do is you go up to the craft services table and take something to eat. That tells everyone you're part of the crew, right? Then you walk out at the back, right, and you stand and you watch and take out a notepad and start taking notes. That for some people, they're going to think that you're part of the studio watching what they're going to do. So they're going to be very nice to you. And then after a while, pick out the people that you want to speak to. Don't speak to the director. Don't speak to the star. Speak to the third camera assistant, because they never get spoken to. And when you introduce yourself to them and they know who you are, other people are going to see that too, and they're going to assume that you're part of the studio. And that way, as time goes on, you will have people approach you to ask, what you're doing. And it's incredibly true, because what what people will see, and especially in a production, it's very, you don't want to piss off the people at the top, because that's your job, and there's 400 people who want to be in that position, so it's very easy to be expendable. But you also want to show the people around that you're not coming in and throwing your weight around. And in fact, I even had that happen when I was first going onto a set for Star Trek Voyager. It happened to be directed by LeVar Burton, who is an amazing actor and an amazing storyteller. And I'll never forget, I was there in the morning. I had got permission. I think I told the story about how I got permission to be there. And I remember he's walking out of set, and his eyes locked on me, and my eyes locked on him. And as he's walking this big arc, his head swiveling to be like, who the hell is that guy? And I'm kind of looking at him going, yeah, that's right. I'm the guy who has no reason to be here, and you're looking at me. Like, it wasn't from a egotistical thing. It was more from cool. And when he came back, I was just standing there, and he approached me, and he's like, hey, I'm LeVar. And I'm like, hi, I'm Gil. And he's like, right, you're with blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And he's like, oh, cool. What brings you here today? And then I told him, I'm a student from UCLA, blah, 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 blah. And he went, oh, cool. And he started showing me around, like, took time away as I was setting stuff up to go around and show me these things. And I thought to myself going, wow, you know what? That was one of the most amazing experiences that I've had. Because, as and I'm like, I'm just going to stand here. And he's like, no, come up here. Come take a look at the video village. See what's going on. Oh, what was your experience? And I said, you know what? I made a short film very similar to this. And he's like, cool, come take a look at it. And at the end, he's like, just call me Kunta. And I'm like, serious? Like, dude. And I'm like,
seriously say that?
Yeah,
wow.
He said that to me. Like we were just messing around. I think because one of the people that I had known came in, and they call me Down Under. So that was my nickname. So the idea was, it's like the Down Under Wonder was what they used to call, but they call me Down. So it was either Down Under or DU. They're like, hey, DU, come take a look at this. And someone called me that. And he goes, what's DU? And I go, oh, they call me the Down Under Wonder because I'm so excited about being here and all the rest of it. And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, just call me Kunta. It's all cool. So I was like, whoa. I'm like, isn't that disrespectful? And he's like, nah, that's all cool. So, again, it's one of those. Yeah, exactly. And, I didn't feel comfortable doing that sort of stuff because, it's an incredible role, and I have so much respect for what was being discussed. I think at one point I turned around and go, can I just call you Toby? And he kind of just chuckled at it. But,
okay, did he play Kunta Kinte?
He played Kunta Kinte, and then John Amos played him older when he'd become a slave and was now known as Toby.
Okay. Yeah. I did not know
that. That is his break.
Wow.
Yeah, that is his breakout role. That's how he was kind of discovered. And, it's kind of an interesting thing because I never really crossed paths with him, but sometimes on Twitter I see, I follow him. I don't know if he follows me. There's no reason for him to do that. But he'll post like, he'll be in, let's say, Philadelphia. He goes, Kunta Kinte's in the house. And I'm like, okay, he's recognized by it and all the rest of it. But again, it's just an amazing thing that can happen when you go about things in a respectful way. I really think one of the reasons why I had that opportunity to connect was because I wasn't approaching the director. I was approaching the crew, and I was approaching. Even in that experience, I remember. I don't know the name of the episode, but it's an episode where, in the story, people are pretending to be the Voyager crew, and so there was an actress who was pretending to be Captain Janeway, and she was on set, playing. And I remember looking, going, "That's not Kate McGrew." So I don't know what's going on, and I didn't have a script or anything like that. And I was like, "Okay." And I was standing there, and I remember she came off. She was having a couple of issues with the scene, and she came up to me, and she's like, "I'm really messing this up, aren't I?" And I'm like, "No. Why would you say that?" And again, I didn't realize it, but she must have assumed that I was, higher up on the level, and I was critiquing her.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because I made the mistake. I wanted to show respect, so I came in a suit. which you don't come in a suit unless you're a big power player. And I was told, they're like, you don't have to dress up. Just come in jeans and t-shirt. It's California. Relax. And I was like, okay, because, this is a big deal for me. And then, like, every break, she would come up and chat with me to the point where she's like, oh, here's my number. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Because, again, sometimes the system is you never know who can open doors for you. Literally, I had to say to her, I'm like, just, take a moment, be you. There's a reason why you've got the job. Go and do it. And I'm like thinking to myself going, this is crazy. Like, I'm giving acting advice to a established actor only because she sees me as higher up, right? I'm like, well, okay, whatever.
Play Gayle.
Not at all.
Gayle play.
Not at all, my friend. Not at all. But again, that's the moments. They're the moments that you have. Hey there, film lovers. I hope you're really enjoying this episode of Cinematic Perspective, but I wanted to take a moment out and share with you a brand new project I'm super excited about. It's called Spectacular Distraction, where I uncover hidden gems and forgotten classics from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. The movies and shows that shaped pop culture, but somehow slipped through the cracks. Remember those films that only aired once or twice, disappeared completely, but got stuck in your head? We'll find them, break them down. The rip-offs, the inspirations, and we'll go through and find out all the different pieces that are missing from cinema today. So if you're as obsessed with cinema and pop culture as I am, come on a nostalgic journey with me. Search for Spectacular Distraction on YouTube, hit subscribe, and never miss out on a hidden gem, deep dives, or iconic moments. Because everything else is just spectacular distraction. You hear the stories of people like Steven Spielberg who happen to, they find an office and they set themselves up, and the next thing you know, they're directing a film. You can understand in the studio system, there's so many people coming about that, and you never know where they're at, where that sort of thing can absolutely happen. So, that's a fun moment.
He pulled a fast one. He pulled a fast one.
Completely.
And luckily it worked. Like, for people who don't know, Steven Spielberg, he was a kid, basically, and he got a suit and a briefcase, and he realized that if he acted like he belonged on the studio backlot, he could just kind of walk through the gate in this very professional-looking suit with this briefcase and wave at the guard, just acknowledge the guard, and the guard's like, well, I guess he belongs here. And Spielberg, I don't know how long he did that for, but then he found an empty office, and he set up in the office, and he, went to work every day for, a month or something. And I think somebody eventually was like, who the hell is this kid in this office? And they finally found him out, and I think they booted him out. But then it became like, did you hear about this crazy kid, Spielberg, who just showed... But then he'd go and hang out on the sets every day, and he'd go to these different sound stages and watch the work. And yeah, it's audacious and it's crazy, and I don't necessarily recommend that anybody do it. But
it doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't. Back then, it was very, very different. You didn't have terrorists trying to blow stuff up, and you didn't have mass shootings back then.
No, it's completely different.
Nobody damaged anything. Nobody did anything bad. It was inconvenient and it annoyed people, but it was safe. It was easy. Yeah.
It works the other way as well, because I remember going to a meeting at Universal, and then at the end they're like, "What are you going to do?" And I'm like, "I'm just going to go." They're like, "Just go to the park. We can walk from the offices into Universal Studios." The theme park, and they're like, just go enjoy yourself. And I went, oh, okay. So I did that, and I kind of went some rides, and then got on the bus and went back to where I was living. And then I said to myself, hang on a second, wait, whoa. I can go from the offices to the theme park. What if I go and buy myself a yearly ticket and go from the theme park into the actual, because it's a working studio, into the offices, and then I can go and I can knock on the door and be like, hey, have you got a minute? Let's go get a bite to eat. And that's actually what I did. So I actually, because I was living in Los Angeles, you can get a local pass where you pay for the ticket, but you can go as many times as you want in a year. All you have to do is show an ID that you live in the area. And, it was always, I actually had roommates, because I was a student at the time at UCLA, they'd be like, what are you doing today? I'm like, I'm going to Universal. You want to come along? You can't come to the meeting, but we'll go and hang out at Universal and just goof around on the rides and they're like, yeah, hell yeah. So they're like, you'd get your pass, and I'm like, this is my assistant, and we'd sit outside. I have a meeting or interview or whatever needed to be done, and then we'd be like, cool. And we'd put all the stuff, like, you dress up and then you put all your clothes in your backpack and then you're like, cool, let's go to the Back to the Future ride and let's go do this and do that. And it was just a really weird thing. Paramount, I think I've told the story before, but the first time I went to Paramount, I got a drive on and I needed a car because I didn't have one. And a friend of mine had this beat up Chevy Nova that had been T-boned. So it was all rusted out because he couldn't repair it. And the pages were making fun of the fact that this beat up clunker had got a drive-on pass when, there's Mercedes and Porsches and like, really high end. Well, because I stuck out, I, as a goof, went, hey, what would have happened if I just drove into Paramount? And they waved me on. They were like, yeah, that guy's got a pass. And I got, again, to drive on and then discreetly go onto the sets of places that people knew me. Or I'd go, let's say, to the makeup department at the Star Trek guys, because that's how I initially went to interview Michael Westmore. And they'd be like, hey, Gayle, what's going on? I'm like, is it cool if I just hang out here? And they're like, yeah, we're going to prop this, and you'd speak to the actors or you'd speak to the makeup crew, and then you'd follow them down and the security's like, yeah, we know you can go in. Or, hey, I'm just going to go over to the DS9 set and they're about to wrap. And people be like, DU, how you doing? I'm like, yeah, cool, man. And they're like, oh, you here for the week? And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problems. So
it was if I very, very different. It was very different back then. Yeah. When I was on Star Trek Next Generation, I think we may have talked about this before. When I was on Star Trek Next Generation, I was kind of a bit player on an episode, but I called Ted Smith, Evil Ted, and I said, hey, meet me for lunch at Paramount. And I was able to basically go to the gate, meet Ted at the gate, and because I already was in there and I'm in wardrobe and I'm in makeup, I'm like, this is my friend Ted, we're going to have lunch together. Oh, sure, go on in. And that didn't give us permission to crawl around the sets and take a bunch of photos, but we did anyway. But again, this is the late 80s, early 90s, and people aren't as scared of this stuff. We've talked before about there was no internet. There was no way to put this stuff out onto the internet. Nobody cared if we took pictures. They were 35 millimeter. We had to develop them. Then sure. On the Warner Brothers backlot, I was there working on a film, and I walked over to the Goober Peters office, the guy who'd made Batman, and for some reason I had to walk into the offices, and in the boardroom was a full-size mannequin with the bat suit on it. It was a Michael Keaton mannequin with the bat suit. And I walked into and there was nobody in there, so I walked in and looked at it. And then, I don't know, for some reason I got Ted onto the set again. And like I belonged there, I walked into the Goober Peters offices before. And I think I actually said, is John Peters here? No, John Peters isn't here right now. And I'm like, oh, well, I wanted to take my friend in and show him the bat suit real quick. Can I do that? And she's like, well, I'm really not supposed to, but go ahead real quick. So I take Ted in and I'm like, Ted, look, the bat suit. And yeah, very different times. Very respectful and very different. And we were screwing around, but it wasn't harmful and it wasn't mean-spirited and it wasn't for nefarious purposes.
You weren't trying to leak a photo.
We were fans. We were fans. We were passionate.
My experience on a backlot like that with Batman actually too was that Matt Ullman had been doing some running, I guess, and deliveries, so he still had a pass. And when I was out in LA visiting, he's like, hey, let's go over to the lot. So he showed the pass and we got in. And
beautiful.
As we turned the corner, because you got all these huge buildings, just row after row of huge building, and we turned the corner and literally almost ran right into the Batmobile. And I was just like, oh my gosh! And I'm like digging for my camera, and he's like, no, don't do that, because then they'll think you're a fan and they'll kick us out. And I'm like, well, all right. So I don't have proof of it or anything, but yeah. So I got to see the Batmobile.
I believe she's a pretty trustworthy character. She's pretty trustworthy.
Talking about fans going the wrong way with it, have you ever heard of Captain Stone and what happened on the Star Trek studios? No. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So it happens to be, I learned this online and I actually had a copy of the video. There was a fan who was a prop replicator, and we're going to call him Captain Stone because that's how he was known. And he ended up, I believe he was an extra on one of the episodes, And what he did was he hid himself in the transporter set. So the transporter set's raised up where the lights are. He removed something, he hid there, waited for them to close up everything for the night, and then had a friend with a video camera and a stills camera waiting. He opened the door, let them in, and then he started recording a kind of, fan-based walk around the set, taking photos and all the rest of it. And what ended up happening is security busted them. So in the video, you can hear security go, "Hey, come here," whatever, and they run. And one of the guys gets caught. I think he gets caught, or one of them gets away, one gets caught. And at that point, it was shut down to everyone. So the idea of getting onto the set was you had to get permission from the producer, which was exactly what ended up happening with me. It's amazing to watch this thing because he's like, "Get my camera," and it's like they're taking photos so they can replicate what they're seeing. And he's incredibly bossy. Obviously, adrenaline must be going, and he's in a early next generation onesie, right? So the original jumpsuit, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Captain Stone. I'm going to show you all around the Enterprise." And I mean, it is. I'm pretty sure it went to court and a whole bunch of things. It wasn't just a "you naughty boy." It was you went and hid, and then let someone in when this was all supposed to be locked down. And that's
kind of breaking and entering.
That's breaking and entering.
I think that's what he got. I think that's exactly what they got charged for. So, I mean, it's kind of a really interesting thing. It's been a bit of a joke around the internet for quite some time, at least in the kind of the replication prop
That's
forums.
a new one on me. I hadn't heard that. That's pretty crazy.
I'm pretty sure I've got the MPEG somewhere on a DVD, but it's just one of those things where it's like these are not the ways to be able to do it. And I know that you also had experience acting in the background, so of next gen episodes. So it's like Wyatt is not at the caliber where he's going to hide in the closet and wait till everyone leaves, so that I can go and play around and show all the little secrets. And I think that's actually, I don't know if it's tied into the idea of not having people on set, but one of the things he was doing was he was going around and opening things and go, "Look, this is just plywood." As opposed to, you know what? This is a futuristic diagnostic bed in sickbay.
Well, yeah, you don't necessarily want that illusion blown.
Well, Ted and I definitely walked around the set and got up close to stuff and this is wood that's been formed, but then it's had a texture sprayed on it to make it look like a cast metal. And he's like, "Okay, you can see the screw heads." But so we were trying to figure out how they did some of it. And Ted's like, "Oh my, okay, so these are silkscreen printed, but they're backlit." But we weren't making fun of that, riffing on it, getting ready to show this to the internet. No, we were I had my ray gun prop with me, and Ted wanted to lay the prop out on the floor and get a nice close-up on it. And he's looking at it and going, "Okay, this would look really good on camera, but yeah, I can see a casting line, and I can see bubbles, and but on TV, that'd look great." And yeah, so
more educational.
More educational, yeah, more experiential. And okay, there's no lighting here, but it's lit. And it's lit for filming. So looking at how all the practical lighting was incorporated into the set. And okay, we're on the bridge. It's completely well lit. So you could shoot from any angle and then just pop up a floating light to give a little rim or a little edge or something. It's wow, it's no wonder they could just move because this is all pre-lit. You don't have to light the corridor. You flip on the board and the corridor's lit. So yeah, it was educational. It was a good experience.
Yeah.
And then the Enterprise sets. Oh my God, the Enterprise sets, by the time they got to Enterprise, the bridge set on the Enterprise was much smaller, but Next Gen was still, we're gonna unscrew these and we're gonna go and we're gonna move this flat. Enterprise was I don't remember how many pie-shaped sections the Enterprise bridge was in, but it was all speed railed and bolted, and it was you could unbolt the sections and then depress the thing and it went up on wheels and you could just wheel them. They had the modularity down to a science. We don't want to unscrew this stuff and grip move it back. We're just chink chink chink. Yeah, it was the advancement was really there.
I was just going to say that's the whole point. I mean, if you're going into it to learn and you appreciate, if you're going into just, kind of exploit, it's another thing. And again, we were talking about it on the podcast. It's about the enthusiasm. People want people to be interested in what they're doing. If you can talk to them, if you have a little bit of knowledge, people always are willing to share, because normally you do your job and you just do it, and no one, they go, Mike Akuda is like, oh, Akudagrams, and like everyone's excited, but Mike did so much other work and no one ever talks about it. It's like if someone comes up and talks to him about his early animation work on a TV show, I'm sure he would be even more enthusiastic than talk about, yeah, we did the L-Cars graphics. We put little funny sayings because you'd never read them. It's that sort of stuff.
I love talking about my work. I don't like being harassed, but I love talking about the work, and especially if someone genuinely wants to learn, if you're going to ask me how to do something and then I tell you and then you go, oh, that's hard, then no, I don't want to talk to you. But no, I love talking about the work, and if you're enthusiastic and you really want to know.
Mr. Wade, how did you get the muscles in the bat suit? How did you do that? What kind of effect did you use?
That was pure weed. That was pure weed.
No, that's too hard, man. No, that's too hard. Don't you know you can get a foam suit? You can get a muscle suit that can do that.
Oh my God.
That's what I'm going to do on mine.
The next time I do Batman, I will stay in some kind of shape, but I swear I will have a muscle suit next time, because that does make life a lot easier. That does you still have to be in shape.
Agree.
You can't be an out of shape schlub, but man, trying to be in shape off camera for a scene where you don't have your shirt on, that's one thing. Trying to look like a superhero through spandex, that's double tough. So yeah, looking good with your shirt off, cool. When you put the suit on, have the muscles. Even Henry Cavill has a damn muscle suit on. So yeah.
So Mr. Wade, what you're saying is that I actually helped you out in your production, and since you've got money and I don't, and I need a muscle suit on my production, you want to throw a little bit of a donation towards my production? Come on, man.
Not even. No,
Come on.
No.
Not
even
listen. Hey, I helped you. You're nothing. You wouldn't have known about that muscle suit if it wasn't for me.
You're scaring me a little. You're scaring me a little.
Well, I'm trying to recreate what not to do when you're talking with filmmakers. Hey, man, you wouldn't even work that out. So yeah, it's kind of, it's kind of a weird situation. I totally agree, but you know what? It's awesome. It's awesome to see where these journeys take you, and especially since we've had similar experiences, but from completely different avenues.
You talked about something earlier. I'm in the middle of something really interesting right now, and I don't know where it's going to settle out, but it's really been fascinating. It's been a fun ride. You talked about sort of where you want to go with your career and where you think your career is right now, and it's like your career and the kind of the best is yet to come is kind of what you said, like what you intend to do. Yes. And yeah, it's like, but you talked about am I doing what I want to do, or have I done what I wanted to do? And you're like, well, I haven't done it yet.
True.
And this is not meant as bragging. This is meant as a word of encouragement to anyone who's out there. I'm in my 50s. I went out to LA in my 20s with this idea of being famous. And you say that, but then you have to assess what do you really want to do? Do you want to be a director? I mean, it's not about being famous. It's like you want to be an actor, you want to be a director. Fame is part of the process. Over time, I've become adjusted to the idea that I just want to do the work, and I want to create these things, and I want to be satisfied and happy with them. And if people get it, if I'm in a movie theater and people are watching my movie and they react where I want them to, and then after it's over, they say, oh my God, that was great, and they get what I was trying to do, that's a huge satisfaction. I kind of put this idea of acting aside. I still like to do it, and I did it for friends, like, oh, hey, Wyatt, can you help me out? I want you to play this part in a movie. And then, of course, as you get older, men in particular find, character parts are available. Like, when you're trying to be the young leading man, it's like you're up against everybody. When you're old and you've got a gray beard and you can be the school principal or the father
or the
lawyer or Nick Fury or old Bruce Wayne, then it's a whole different thing. What's interesting now is that I've sort of dipped my toe back into the acting arena. And something's happening. Like, I did a fan film, and they went, oh, can you do this? And then because of that fan film, somebody else went, oh, can you do this? And, oh, can I put you in this commercial? And, oh, I saw you did this thing. Can you be a news reporter in my movie? And now this is leading to something that, I'm going to say it now, which could be a big tease, and I'll admit it later if it is. There's something brewing on the horizon that might put me in the room with some really cool science fiction genre actors, of which this audience would know exactly who these people are. And if that happens...
You can't say anymore. You've got an NDA. You've signed it. Don't blow it with us, our project, man.
Well, no. So there's this project on the horizon with these name sci-fi genre actors, and I'm so excited. You don't know about all of it.
I guess not.
I'll have to tell you about more of it.
Wow, that's a powerful NDA.
So it's really going to be interesting to see, like 6 months, a year from now, if this all comes to pass, and then what? Because it's cool because now I've gotten to that point where like, if it happens, it happens. I'm acting, I'm having fun, I'm making movies. It's all cool. If this then happens, it will be such a gift in my life. If I actually end up on set with these people doing this project, I know, provided I don't screw it up, it's going to lead to more. And it's like so weird. So I guess my point is, you know, I fought all through my youth and it's like, I want to be famous. And it's like, no, I just want to do the work. I just want to do the good work. And now literally the work and the good quality work and the hard work is paying off. And it's coming full circle where people were going, we like your work. We want you to work on this. And it's going to be fun and weird and ironic that I potentially get to a level of notoriety in the acting community.
This later in life?
Later in life. And frankly, I'm looking forward to it now. Because I think I can handle it better now. I'm enjoying it better now. I know how to deal. I'm a better craftsman now. I know how to do it better now. I won't screw it up now. So yeah, let's talk about this again in like 6 months and see where it all settled out, because it's really an exciting and interesting time, but I'm absolutely enjoying it. I'm not stressed out about it. I'm not worried about it. And it's like, if it happens, cool. If it doesn't, cool. But if it happens, it's like, okay, this is gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Nice.
It would be pretty amazing. And you know what? I'd love to see that happen for you. I mean, I know your journey, and I know that was an area. You know, it's kind of a weird thing. I was just thinking when you were talking about it. I just remember, like, you know, in my youth, I was always playing with cameras, and then, you know, I've told the story before that my mother especially was so not adamant, but she wanted to direct me into going to university because that was what she believed was the right path, and then it became filmmaking. And then, you know, you go out and you just want to make things, but you haven't had life experience. You can't really tell a story if you haven't lived it. So people were always hanging back. And then, you know, I said, okay, I'm going to do everything that I can and get across that line. And I said 30. Up to 30, this is what I'm concentrating on. At 30, if I haven't done it, I'm going to, you know, work out something else. And then I turned 30 and I said, I can't stop. So I kind of went till 40, right? And then I remember, you know, I worked on a number of productions, and you know, LA, and all that happened in when I was 27, and then, you know, I was bouncing back and forth, and then, you know, I had a bit of a sea change in life, and took some time out just to work out, you know, who am I, what do I want out of life, which was really, really healthy. And the funny thing is, I thought that was my step completely out of cinema and filmmaking, and of course, like, if it's who you are, it'll find a way. It's like the sickness gets you. Like it just so, you know, I'm in the Middle East trying to be as spiritual as possible, and someone comes up and goes, "We're working on a film. We need a writer. Are you interested?" And I'm like, that morning going, "I'm running out of money. I gotta go home." And I'm like, "Okay," you know, it's like, and then that turns into a documentary for PBS, and you know, you end up shooting some stuff. And so I'm on camera as a second unit and directing and all the rest of it. That gets done, released. Then people are like, hey, you know what? We're going to go make these things. I start teaching. So I'm teaching now people how to make YouTube videos to get their message out. And that was really my first step towards teaching. And then I come back and I'm like, oh, cool. I'm totally out now. Like, that's it. I'm done. It's returned something. And bang, you know, something else comes in. Like, you know, my last kind of production that ended up getting picked up by the BBC and used to celebrate one of their productions. So it was like, cool, and I'm like, cool, I'm out. Like, I don't want to. And then bang, you know, an opportunity comes to go and do some stuff on YouTube.
Back in,
and that's how I feel. I'm like, every single time. And I remember there was a very small window, maybe it was a year and a half, where I'm like, this is cool, man. I don't have to worry about AV stuff. I don't have to worry about film stuff. I don't have to worry about anything. I'll just come in and do my job. And then I remember some guys just, trying to get some stuff set up. And I'm like, have you tried doing this, and this way? They're like, oh, you know how to do it? Cool, man, do it. And I'm like, oh, seriously? And in fact, even to this point where due to COVID, I had to go get a day job because my consultancy stuff got locked up in the lockdowns here. And, I got a couple of days as a position, and they're like, you can do this and this. What about AV stuff? Can you set up a studio? And I'm like, yeah, it's not a problem. And they're like, great, okay, you're hired. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like why? Completely left. Like the last question on this interview was, do you know anything about AV stuff? And I'm like, yeah. Well, what do you want to do? And they tell me, I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, but are you trying to actively move out of it, or is it that every time you think it's over, it comes back?
I think it's every time I think it's over. But what I've learned is that the sort of work that I want to do is very similar to the work that you're doing. So
okay.
It's work that, like, if I want to go and do commercial work, I can go and fight to get that position and get work for 3 days and get paid minimum wage or no wage at all because we don't have enough money and we don't, there's a whole industry here where they like, we'd love you to work for us, but we have no money. And like, I'm like, dude, you just drove up in a Porsche, right? Like, I saw you were eating at a thing. I'm like, what? You're not doing this because you haven't got any money. I would rather work on my own projects that I know will go the distance and I will learn something out of it. And I won't have someone critique because I'm doing it a little bit differently. So that's where I'm coming from.
Gotcha.
But I had a really interesting experience. It was about a year before the whole COVID lockdown. So it was probably 2018. Everyone goes through emotional periods in their life. And I remember having a conversation with some friends who were like, we're really worried about you, Gayle. Like, you seem to be down and we don't know what's going on. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. And they're like, no, like, just be aware that we know you well enough that, there's something going on and maybe you're not aware of it. And I thought to myself, I sat with it. I'm like, how do I explain kind of how I'm feeling? Because obviously I don't have the language to discuss this. So what I ended up doing was I made a 5-minute short film and I gave myself the permission to normally when you make a film, it's like, I got to shoot everything. I got to do everything. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take this afternoon and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a digital camera. I'm going to shoot what I need and I'm going to steal from everything that I know. So the idea was I'm going to go and take the pieces from cinema that I know, that I reflect, that I repeat, and I'm going to use that. So I remember using, a scene from Copland where Ray Liotta is talking about how you can tail someone. You don't have to be behind them. You can be beside them. You can tail them from different areas. And he also talks about, what happens when you hit a red light? You turn left, right? You can turn left and keep perpetual motion going. And at the time, I felt that I was really blocked. So I took that scene out and I put that in there. And then I went and shot myself, in a bed wide awake with a clock that said like 3 a.m. And, I set the camera up and I screamed like 4 different ways and then superimposed those. So it looked like me here and then like this rage exploding. And then I took, even an image from the Avengers of Tony Stark at the end where he blows up the thing and he's falling into the black hole, as he goes back to Earth, because that's really what I was feeling emotionally. I was in this really dark place. Put it all together and then showed my partner and in fact she started crying and I said, wait, and she goes, I'm scared. This is really scary stuff. And I'm like, maybe I was a little too strong with what's going on. But I also showed it to a really good friend of mine who was one of the people who approached me. And he was just stunned. And I go, did I scare you? And he goes, I can't believe that if this is how you're feeling, you're able to produce this level of work. He goes, you may be there, but you are still so functional.
Right.
You're more I couldn't do this if I wanted to do this. This is your stuff. Like, yeah, okay. So you took those sequences and you put it in. I think one of the things I took was like the opening of Kung Fu where Kane's walking on the dunes because I felt alone and he goes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. And he goes, and I thought to myself, wow, that is again, it's like I thought I was out. Like, I'm not the filmmaker anymore, but here I am doing exactly what it was in a completely different, non-traditional way. And there are times where, not just, in dark places, but I'll be like, this is how I'm feeling. And I'll go, cool. I want to grab the shot from your space camp where they're taking off in the shuttle and they're like, or just before they take off, they're all screaming happy, and that's how I'm feeling here, and I'm gonna put this together, and I'm gonna do these slams, but they're just gonna be for me or for the people that I care about, to be like, this is just my emotional marker using this sort of stuff. A few people have said you should put these out on YouTube, or you should share them. And I'm like, look, they're going to be copyright, they're going to be this, that, and the other. I don't want that. That's not what I'm doing it for. So again, going back to the question of like, are you out and you just get pulled back in? Yeah, constantly.
Hey, this is Wyatt Weed from the Cinematic Perspective podcast. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast, you know that we make movies. But what you may not know is that we also help other filmmakers distribute their films. David Martin Conley's Tapestry of Shadows is a tense, dramatic tale of a neighborhood under siege. A husband and wife struggle to deal with the fallout of a drive-by shooting, and their faith is tested in the process. This film is just as relevant now as it was the day it was made. Bedlam Street is an award-winning film by Paul Wendell. It's a character-driven drama following a group of interconnected individuals over the course of one day near Christmas. Set in the inner city, it explores themes such as crime, poverty, race, religion, and family. Both of these films can be found for rent or purchase at piratemediagroup.net.
All the time, people are telling us, well, you could make money like this. You could make money like that. Oh, this is this and this is that. Yeah, maybe so, but I left all that behind a long time ago, and I went to Los Angeles, and I wanted to become a filmmaker because I didn't want to 9-to-5 it in a traditional job. So even within production, the production we have that nets us money and the production we do creatively, we like it, we can deal with it, and the stuff that's even corporate, it's like we have clients that are such and we have jobs that are such that they're not difficult and they're creatively really strong. So then people are constantly coming up to us and going, well, wedding videos. Oh my God, you can make a lot of money doing wedding videos.
Oh my God.
Like, no, I don't want it. It's about making creative choices just as well. And I know people who have said, listen, if this is what's available to me, I used to be an artist. I can still be an artist. I will go be an artist and wait for the jobs I want because I don't want to do these. And we're very much in that position. We're very much in a position where, we do the jobs that make us happy. And, if it was just about money, I never would have gotten into creative stuff to begin with. I ultimately do think that being in the creative industry will lead to silly money, big money. But, if it was just about money, I'd do something else. And I know a lot of people. I know some very money-savvy people who are not as happy as I am. Let me just say that.
Oh, yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about when people say to me all the time, go do a wedding, go do this. There's big money in that sort of stuff. And we have a good friend that we know, Mike, who's here in Perth. He's got a video company. We met him at AFM. Michael, he shoots, corporate stuff, wedding stuff all the time. It's, he's happy doing that. It's no knock. It's honest work. For me, there's nothing more frustrating because I'd be the guy who goes, stop the wedding right here. You're about to do the vows. I need you over here. And they'd be like, are you out of your mind? There's a skill set to that where I'm like I need to make sure that I've got what I need so I can deliver what I promised.
Yes. That's like a live television shoot. And I got out of live television because I don't like live television. I mean, if you want me to be on the Oscars and you want me to present an award or accept an award at the Oscars, that's different. But directing live television, I've done that, and I don't enjoy the stress factor. And a wedding is like a one-shot deal. I like it where I'm like, Gayle, I didn't like that take. Let's do another one. And I really felt that one. Let's do another one for safety while we're in the groove. Yeah, I want to work for the pieces that I need to construct the narrative. And yeah, there are 100 ways we could make money. Just today when we were on the shoot, was like, oh, there's this gig and we hired these guys to do this technical internet thing. And oh my God, there's a lot of money in that. And it's like, there's a lot of money in a lot of things. There's money in crab fishing up in the North Pacific off the coast of Alaska. I'm not going to go do that. So yeah,
But you will do it off the coast of Australia, so you can. No, it's okay.
No.
I'm gonna
If
ask you a
I'm going to do
question.
anything off the coast of Australia, I'm going to go down in a shark cage off the Great Barrier Reef, and I'm going to let a great white knock me around.
That's not the Great Barrier. There's no sharks at the Great Barrier Reef. You want to come out to South Australia. That's where they shot the footage for Jaws. Not a problem, my friend. I'm
There's no
scuba
great
diver. I'll
whites
take you
off the
there.
Great Barrier Reef?
No,
Really?
too warm.
Okay. Well, I'll go somewhere in Australia where there's great whites, and I'll go down in a shark cage.
We can
so
make
I
that happen.
See, yeah.
We can make that happen. We'll call you Hooper, and we'll be like, wait, what happened? We'll bring the shark cage back, and you'll be gone. Now I've got a question for you. Have you ever walked away from work due to the people who you had to work with? Like, have you had a job and you're like, well, Gayle, you put your hand up. I'd love to hear you have as well. What to share with me?
Okay.
What's your hard outs? Like, what would cause you to say to someone, yeah, I'm not doing that?
There's been 2 projects that I have walked away from. Like I got hired, and then before filming started, because I was in the pre-production stage, that I went, yeah, this isn't. I'm not the person for this job. One of them, it was about the way the money was being spent. That the client, I feel like the director knew that the client had a lot of money, and so he saw dollar signs. And I'm kind of looking at the script, and I'm doing a breakdown, and I'm looking at how many crew we're gonna need, and I'm like, well, we could do this for this. We could get these guys for that amount. We could have it at this location. And your budget would probably be this for this. And this was a creative short film. This was just something this person wanted to do. The director, on the other hand, was telling this guy, oh, it's going to be like, I don't know, he probably had him up at 4 times the amount that I was quoting. And I was just like, okay, you know what? The director's the guy that hired me, but I don't know. I'm the one that connected the director and the client originally. I'm like, I can't do this. I feel like he's taking advantage of you, and I just can't do this. Another project that I walked away from was, I love the director. I thought she was amazing, but I don't think she was ready to let go of enough of the creative control or the producer control. And ultimately, I think there was like 5 producers on this project, and nobody was really doing anything because nobody was told that, okay, you are the producer. So it was like this committee. It was like producing by committee, and it was like, oh, here's all the information, and then everybody would just sort of walk away. I'm like, somebody's got to be the voice that says, okay, great, let's do this, 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 and this. And I wasn't given, in effect, that permission. So I'm like, you know what? I think you've got enough producers. I'd rather stay friendly with you, and I'm out. So.
Awesome.
Something that gets on my nerves very quickly is similar to the producing thing. I've worked with some very anal retentive control freaks who they give you a list of things to do, and then you start making the phone calls and you start doing the things, and you find out they've already done them. And it's like they were so wound up and they were so worried that they did it themselves. And it's like, then what am I? It's like, no, it's okay. It's like, you're kind of my double check person. You're kind of my follow-up person. It's like, don't take it personally. It's just, I get anal retentive and I get wound up and I get stressed. And it's okay if I did it before you did. And I'm like, no, I don't want my day to be useless. I don't want my day to be finding out that you've already taken care of something. And then at the end of the day, I collected a paycheck, but I didn't actually accomplish anything.
Right.
I have no patience for and will not work for people who hire you to do the heavy lifting and then they want to play after the fact. Like, I'm going to hire you to direct, I'm going to hire you to shoot, but I'm then going to take all this footage and go edit. I'm not an editor, I'm just a person with a lot of money and I want to play filmmaker, so I'm going to let you guys do all the heavy work, and then I'm going to sit and make all these creative decisions in the editing room, and it's going to be my film at that point. No. Hire me to do a job. If you want to play, that's great. I'm not the person to give you... If you want to hire me to be the writer, producer, director, filmmaker dude, let me follow that thing through creatively to the end.
So if somebody just wanted you to direct and then wanted you to walk away, you're not... You want more creative control over
I think there are directors who would be willing to do that. Okay, if James Cameron says, Wyatt, I want you to direct, I know James is going to have the access to people who are far better editors, experienced editors. But if it's somebody on the lower end and they're not really experienced filmmakers, but they're money people and they just want me to do the stuff that they don't want to do, no. I mean, I think I need to make it clear and people need to know that I'm a director with a total vision. I have a total vision that goes from the written word, the spoken word, to the visual language, to then how it's all assembled. It's like I can give you brilliant footage and you can destroy it in editing. So I want to be able to follow that picture through. And it's part of my job to say, hey, here's who I am as a filmmaker. Make sure you want this. Make sure you want all of this on your movie.
Oh, who wouldn't want that?
I'm
There
wild
was an
weed,
interesting...
bitch. No.
There was a project I walked away from in LA, and I won't name names, but I was contacted. They talked to me about being an associate producer. They had a producer, they had a director. It was a science fiction film. It was going to involve some spaceships, an alien planet, astronauts. It was going to involve all this stuff. And what they'd heard is that I had worked on some low-budget films, and they were really impressed with the production value and the locations. So they contacted me to say, basically they needed things, and they knew I had model spaceships that were available, and they knew I knew locations. So we spent a day driving around.
I hear you're a guy that can get stuff.
Well, there was a producer, a director, and me, and we went around on like a Sunday, and I showed them all these locations, and then the director talked to me about using the spaceship models. I thought the director was a spaz. He was a decent guy, but the guy could not, talk and pat his head and rub his tummy all at the same time. He just couldn't do it. He just was a spaz. He was going several different directions at once. And the producer seemed like a decent guy, but he just seemed like a cut and paste, I have this much money, I have this many days to shoot, and I have to deliver by this day, and it's all very cookie cutter, and it's a job, and I have a deal, and I just need to fulfill the deal. So I was supposed to go in and finish the interview on a Monday, and so I gave them basically a free day of location scouting, and they liked my creative input enough, so I went in and met him on a Monday. I had gotten a call from Don Pennington to come and work on the Star Trek Voyager pilot for the Caretaker episode, to work on the Caretaker model. I got the call like Sunday night or Monday morning, and I said, Don, can you do me a favor? I have an interview this morning. Let me go do this interview, and then I can call you. It's like, okay, but let me know right away, because I need model makers like today. I go and do this interview at like 10 or 11 o'clock, and I go in and I sit down with the producer, and I say, here are my concerns. Here's my concerns with the director. Here's my concerns with what's going on with the production. Here's my concerns with the value of everything and the deadlines. And the producer kind of listened to me. And then this just sort of dismissive, sort of authoritative, I'm the boss kind of tone. He goes, well, those issues aren't your concern. And I went, okay. I said, all right, cool. I said, is there a phone I can use? He's like, yeah, sure, you can use this phone over here. I excused myself. I went and used the phone in their office. I called Don Pennington. I said, is the job still open? Yes. I said, okay, I'll be there at noon. I went back in and I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to pass on the gig. And I think it was almost like a slap across his face. I think he was stunned. And I said goodbye, shook his hand, and I walked out. And, half hour later, I was out in the valley working on Star Trek Voyager. So, yeah, it's... Again, if you're going to hire me for my expertise and you don't listen to my expertise, if I tell you, here's a brick wall, and I describe the brick wall, and I tell you what the brick wall is there, and I tell you how hard you're going to hit the brick wall, and the shape you're going to make in the brick wall, and you do it anyway, then why do you need me? You don't need me.
Right. Right.
I saw that film later on cable television, and it was horrible. It was a piece of shit. Oh, my God. Anyway.
I had a very kind of similar experience. It was one of the first kind of big productions in Australia that I came to work for. And it was really weird because I was still attached to the university. And it was a role that was being funded by the film industry or the film commission to bring new people in to train them up and get some experience. But because I was still studying, they couldn't pay me, which was the first mistake that I made. But I was super excited. I just got back from Australia. I had these amazing experiences in Los Angeles, and I thought that would translate. And it was a very, it was a large production from an Australian point of view, but it was an independent production, and everyone, there were a lot of really good people. I found The grips in the lighting department were they were professional. They were very respectful. They were great. And then, unfortunately, I ended up in a camera department with people who were just kind of trying to look good, and they would do some really weird things. And one of the things that really kind of threw me big time was that they asked me, "Can you load 35mm film?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, man. I've been doing that, for studios." Well, because they weren't paying me, they couldn't get me on the insurance if something had gone wrong. So I kind of took that a little bit as well, why don't you just pay me? Like, I'm here. You don't have to pay another person, right, to bring someone else in. I can do it. But what they did was they went and hired someone else. So I was like, first of all, hold on. You're telling me you haven't got any money. Then you hire someone else. And I remember the guy who recommended me, he's the best film loader in this state. He's the best film loader in this state. And I remember thinking to myself going, wow, okay, all right. And we had one day to shoot at a school. And the school, I don't know how they worked it out, but the students were going to be the school children. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I remember they got a second camera person in because I couldn't touch the camera either because I wasn't insured. And I'm like, why am I here? Like, what's going on? Like, I don't understand what's going on. And it was a very hard, the department, the guy was not very charismatic, and he would yell a lot and scream, and I was not having a good time at all. Not saying that you have to have a good time, because work is hard work, but it just seemed that every move I made was, it turned into a negative thing. And I'll never forget it. The second camera person who came in was actually someone I knew, and he's like, "Congratulations! It's like so cool. You've crossed the line. How you doing?" Like, we were having this talk, and I remember standing behind him, and he had this 35mm camera on sticks, and I had gone in, and when the guy was loading up the cameras, I'm like, just be aware that the latches, when you lock the latches for the thing, they go counterclockwise. And he's like, yeah, well, I do this, professionally. I work for he said to me, he works for a production here called Neighbours, which is an Australian soap opera. It's very famous. He's like, I've worked on Neighbours. I'm like, all right, okay, whatever. And I just remember because it was a very fast shoot, he would grab the camera and he would move it on his shoulder and put it down, and I'm standing behind him, probably 200 meters away, and from my vantage point, I see the barn door on the film mag just do this. So it was unlocked, and it just exposed the whole film, all the film that's in there. And I'm sitting there, and I'm going, all right, this is bad. This is bad for two reasons. One is I am not confident at all that I can go up to him and say, the film is exposed. Because they're just going to be like, it's Gil's fault. Because, or whatever. And I'm like, what do I do? Because they're never going to be able to come back and shoot this. They're never going to be able to shoot this stuff again. It's just one shot. And I went, you know what? I'm not the camera operator. And even though I'm in the camera department, it's not my call to tell them that, they left the film canister basically unlocked, and every time he's picking it up and moving it, he's just exposing it. So it was a hard one for me. It was a really tough situation. And the reason why I chose not to make to kind of step forward and go, just want to let you know that film's exposed, you're not going to get anything, was the night before we had a shoot where they took the camera and they put it up high on a raised platform, so you couldn't get to it. And my job was to put a video monitor in so everyone could see what's going on. And I put everything in, and there was no signal. So the head of the camera department comes up and starts screaming in front of the public, in front of the crews, just starts berating me. And I say, it's no problem. I'm working out the problem. And he's like, bah, he's screaming at it at the top of his lungs. I'm like, give me a moment. I'm going to work out the problem. And I'm going through it, and it doesn't work. And then suddenly the image just suddenly is on the screen. And I'm going, oh, okay. And then I hear, as I'm standing, getting everything ready, because they were recording to tape so they could get some playback, I feel someone at the back of my right-hand side, and it's the head of the camera department. Not the cinematographer, but the camera department. And he's whispering in it. He goes, you didn't do anything wrong. I forgot to turn the video tap on the camera. And I literally turn around and scream at the top of my lungs, why didn't you fucking scream that out to everyone after the 20 minutes of fucking berating me? Like, and making me look like a fool, right? And I guess the lesson in this is, if you treat your crew like crap, they're not going to go out of your way, right? So they went, and I literally went, okay, it's 9 a.m. When are they going to realize that this film on the second camera is useless? And they never told me. They never came out and told me what was going on, right? But the mood on the set went really dark. And people were like, we don't know what's going on. You know, this guy's trained, blah, 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 blah. And I said, what's going on? And they're like, it's none of your business. It's none of your business. And I was like, all right. And I think I lasted another 2 days. And I think the second day, the last day, they gave me some cans. And they would say things like, move the green shot bag. And there's no green shot bag. So I'd be like, which shot bag? There's an orange one, there's a purple one. There's the green one. And I was just like, you know what? I'll just go and take the channel, and I'll just change the channel on the headset. And I'm like, you don't yell at me anymore. It's that simple. And then like comms people would come up, like there's someone who's in charge of comms, and they're trying to call you, can't hear them. I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, you must have, knocked it. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. So then I'm like, oh yeah, cool. And then they would start screaming. I'd just turn it again, and they'd be like, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I was just in the camera track. I must have bumped it again. I'm like, it doesn't and I just was like, you know what? This is not the way I want to conduct myself. Like, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm ignoring people because they're abusive and they're not letting me know what is going on. And I just remember thinking to myself,
we have stressed how much filmmaking is hard work, but just because it's hard work doesn't mean it has to be miserable. And just because it's hard work doesn't mean we have to treat each other so horribly.
I'm sorry, if you got a point?
Well, I have this, it's a really sad story, and people are going to think I'm really an asshole when I tell you this story, but you're talking about the respect issue. I was on a film in Los Angeles. Anyone with some deep knowledge of filmmaking in Los Angeles will know which movie I'm talking about. I'm not going to name the name of the movie, but I was on a film in Los Angeles, and this film became notorious for the fact that it wasn't lack of professionalism on the part of the film crew. Well, we were doing a shot maker shot at night, and when you do the shot maker shot where you're towing a vehicle behind the shot maker and you're getting these driving shots, you usually have police escorting you.
Sure.
We had an off-duty police officer on a motorcycle going ahead of us, and they go to the next intersection and they stop traffic, and they patrol the street in front of you and they keep the street in front of you safe. Well, he basically went to the intersection ahead, and he stopped in the intersection to shut the traffic down, and a drunk driver came through the intersection and hit him and killed him.
Oh, no.
And on the set, there was a camera guy. I want to say he was maybe an AC or something. He was a jerk. He was horrible to me. He was superior. He found ways to pick on you. You couldn't have any fun. He wasn't experienced enough, and he wasn't, senior enough to really warrant that position. But he wasn't a newbie either, and he was king shit of this low budget film. And I really didn't get along with him very well. So everyone was shocked. Everyone was stunned. They released everybody early. Now it's like sunrise, and everybody's stumbling out to their cars and driving home, and they're going to take the day off the next day. We're not going to shoot the next day. We're on our way out to our cars, and I climb in my car, and I'm stunned, and I fire up my engine, and I look over, and this guy is sitting in his car, and he's sobbing. He's sobbing. And I just thought, if you had been less of an asshole, I might take a minute and talk to you, but you're horrible. And I'm going to sit there, I'm going to let you sob. And I drove away. Like I said, that says as much about me as it does about him, but I just thought, it's a real shame, and I feel really bad for you right now that you're that upset. But, it would have been a lot easier to be nice to you if you weren't so horrible. So, yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
We were talking this morning on the way to our job about how important it is just to be nice to your crew and to people on the crew. And on our film 4-Color Eulogy, we had crew members, because that was such a small budget film, the crew all came out and worked for free on that. And we had crew members that thanked us for letting them be a part of that experience. And so, and it's not even like I can say we fed them really well. I mean, we were on a bologna sandwich budget, and
Sure.
that to me was huge. I mean, we're still friends with all these people, and
No, and I think for them, and we're not bragging either. It was such a good working environment that they were like, okay, I'm going off to NYU Film School now, and wow, this was fantastic. And it was like, I know how to be on a set now, and oh my God, I learned so much here. And like a woman who kind of was hesitant to become a grip electric, because it's like women aren't grip electrics, and she like expressed interest in wanting to work on a movie, and I'm like, here's the equipment. I need this big ass green screen set up and lit, because we're gonna pull a car in and we're gonna shoot green screen. And it was almost like, really? You're gonna let me set up and light? I was like, you knock yourself out. And yeah, and the next day she shows up with, a grip electric belt and all of her tools and her leather gloves, and it was like she was grip electric, man. And yeah, it was a really good experience. It's like we gave them enough rope, but we didn't let them hang themselves. It was like,
Sure.
here's some rope. I've given you enough rope to run around the yard. I'm not going to let you hang yourself, but yeah, here's some rope. And, yeah, it was a really good experience. And they all stuck around to the end. They'd show up on days they didn't need to be there. Yeah. They'd stay late. Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
so and that just really speaks to how you treat people.
I agree 100%. I've had experiences as well where I've worked with people and you get to the, you prep it and they come in for the week and they help you out and they go, what are we doing next week? And I'm like, if you want to do this next week, if you want to come and I'm happy to show you all the stuff that made it so enjoyable. And I'm always happy to have another set of hands. So, and people go, oh, okay, hang on, that's a real job. Okay, I see what's going on. You mean it took you 6 months to get it all ready so you could just kind of turnkey and have everything's fall into place? I'm like, yeah, there's a little bit more that comes in. But I agree. I have friends who I met like at film school and, we kind of learnt about who we are in the trenches and they'll call up. I mean, there was a film that a friend of mine from UCLA, he called me in Australia. I was back here already. And he says, listen, I've got my first feature and it has a stop motion animation robot in it. And he goes, I want you to animate it. Because I was always into that sort of stuff when I was at school, at university, at UCLA. So he's like, and I'm like, okay. And he goes, I've got no budget. You got to get yourself to LA. But here's what I can do. You can sleep on my couch. You can eat my food. You can, we'll hang out and all that. And I said, great. And I said, I can't. I'm not in a position to go and spend $2,500 for a return ticket for something that, and he was pretty adamant. And after the fourth phone call, I was like, what am I doing? I want people to say, I want to work with you. And I was like, okay, I'll be there. And he goes, when can you be here? And I said, listen, it's 4 a.m. now. Give me a few hours. Let me see how much a ticket is. And I was like, I got to wait 2 weeks because if I get on tomorrow, it's going to cost me triple the amount. And he's like, okay, great, we can do that. And it was really interesting because my family don't understand. They're not from an artistic background or filmmaking. To them, this is a pipe dream. This is something that just is like, that's Gil's quirky stuff. And you know what? It'll never amount to anything. And we'll support him, but we'll support him because he's our son. And the right thing to do is to support these kind of ideas. But really, truthfully, what the hell is he going to filmmaker? What is that? Schmielberg. It's kind of, go get a job that pays you something. And I remember I needed a lift. I was living in Adelaide and I had to get the flight from Melbourne. So I asked my family, could I, I'll stay with them overnight and can you drive me to the airport? And my father was like, my mother couldn't do it, but my father said, yeah, okay. And the whole ride, which is 45 minutes to the airport, was, how much are you getting paid? Are you an idiot? They're taking advantage of you. And I went onto the flight for, with 14 hours from the coast of Australia to Los Angeles with, am I doing the right thing? And it really, you're like, whoa. Get out. The minute I got picked up by my friend and all the rest of it, I knew I made the right decision. We shot all the stuff. We animated it. It was quite a large armature, and that's where the budget went into. And I was going to stay on and basically stay with him for a few weeks after, and that was part of it. So he was going into post-production, and we were going seeing the rushes, and we were slam editing things together, and just to do that first pass, see how it was working, and all the rest of it. I was incredibly happy, and at the end of it, my friend says to me, he goes, way above and beyond, Gil. And I was like, yeah, well, there's a reason why you asked me to come, and there's a reason why I came. And he goes, great. He goes, I can't pay you, you know that. But what I can do is I can give you the armature. The armature is now yours. And I'm like, what? I can't take this back. Because to me, if I get a gift, I'm like, that's from me to you. I don't part with that. And this thing was like 3 meters high. It was heavy. I was like, I'm thinking maybe I'll pull it apart and I'll keep it in my office or something. I'm like, what am I going to do with this thing? And he goes,
you're going to buy it its own seat on the plane?
Yeah, absolutely. He goes, well, I got some good news and some bad news. See, because the bad news, if you want to take it home, I can't help you that. The good news is there's some people who want to buy it because they got a production, they want to use it. And it's this amount of money. And I literally looked him in the eye, serious as hell, and I go, no, I'm taking it home. And he goes, no, Gil, sell it to the production company. That these guys want it. It's going to be more money than if I paid you the thing. And I'm like, no, but you gave it to me. And he literally grabbed my shoulders. He goes, listen, doofus, it's sold. Go collect the money. This is a better thing for you than... And I was like, and again, I'm a very emotional kind of person. And I was like, no, what are you doing? Why did you sell this? This is a gift. And then I was like, thank you. You know what? Thank you so much. Because in a lot of ways, what you're doing is you're paying me. And, instead of the production taking the money, it's all the rest. And there's still a part of me, I got to be honest, there's still a part of me that's like, I wish I had that armature because I was like, this is the time that I went on my own. And it's something that's tangible, but I guess I've always got the work and we've got the friendship. And he went on to do a whole lot of really interesting stuff. And, it's those moments that, compared to the other story where I'm like, holy shit, they just exposed all their film. And I don't feel safe enough to go up to them and go, you might want to change the thing to, hey, you know what? You were there. And not only were you there for me for what I needed, you were there to talk about how to get shots done. And it wasn't because you were going, all right, shot 4, 5, 6, this is going to be $50, $70, whatever. It was, hey man, we're all in the trenches together. And I ended up actually made quite a lot more than I would have if it was just a weekly wage.
You just said it. It's like sometimes people say we're all in the trenches together, and you feel like we're all in the trench, and you see everybody putting in the effort. And then sometimes it's like, oh, we're all in the trenches together, and you can just smell it. It's bullshit.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
you
they're
know,
there for the
they're not in the
paycheck.
trenches.
It's manipulation. There was this guy in LA once, and I'd been there a while. I'd been working for a while, and I basically went in for the job interview, and he did the old, well, I know there's not a lot of money on this one, but we'll take care of you on the next one. And I just went, I said, I can't believe that just came out of your mouth. And he goes, well, I had to try. I had to say it. And it was like a mutual air of respect. It was like, I'm going to bullshit you, but I totally respect the fact that you just called me out on my bullshit. I didn't end up doing the job, but he and I were friendly. It was just a total, cut to the chase, let's call this what it is. And it was like, yeah, it is what you just called it. And it was like, okay, cool. As long as you know you're full of shit and you're not going to fight with me about it, but we're all good. It's all good.
Hi, I'm Gayle Gallagher with the Cinematic Perspective podcast. I love movies. I love music, I love movies, and I hang out with other nerds who also love movies. As if you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure you do as well. And so many times when my friends and I are hanging out, somebody will quote a movie or a song or just say something funny, and I think, oh my God, that should be on a t-shirt. So I started the Alley Clothing Company so that I could share these fun designs with you. And also because one of my goals in life is to save the world, and I know that I can't do it on my own, we partner with different organizations who are saving the world. So go to thealleyclothingco.com. That's THE, alleyclothingco.com. Use promo code podcast for 20% off your first purchase.
I've had people that I worked for professionally who came back and said, we're working on this. We have no money, but I want you to work on this. And I go, oh, I want to work on it, but I have no money to pay my rent. So I've got to go and do something else. And
it's that's respectable though too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm like, if you want to talk to my landlord, and you want to make a deal with him that I don't have to pay my rent for this month? Cool, man. I'll be here with bells on. I will work harder and that's why you want me involved in this production, because you know what this is all about. Because there is, to be able to say there's a Wyatt Weed or, a Gayle or a Gayle involved does bring something into that. But you know what? You can't do it for nothing. And it's that you actually have a incredible opportunity to walk away and say no. Recently, I had an opportunity where someone wanted to sponsor something I was doing and give me some equipment. And I spoke to the head of the company and we got it all arranged. And then the local distributor decided they were going to renegotiate. And they were basically like, well, now you work for us. And I was like, I can't do that. And they were like, well, we're going to give you this piece of equipment. We're going to send people down and you can show it to them. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to have strangers coming into my home or come into my workshop, because there's a lot of equipment here and I don't want to really advertise it.
Right.
And they were like, well, this is the value of it. And I was like, you know what? Don't need that, because there'll be another opportunity coming down the pipe. I actually really believe that they made the wrong decision, because in the same situation, just being able to expose that equipment and what it can do has generated sales and things like that. But it's again, it comes from that idea of, if you just look at that final number, and it has to be your decision. It was my decision to go to LA, even with the criticism I got from my family. There was a time where I was like, am I doing the right thing? But the truth of the matter is that I was in a place where I could do it. It wasn't going to hurt me. I wanted to go see my friends. I wanted to get into the trenches. I wanted to get my hands dirty. I was being able to create stop motion animation sequences that I only dreamed of, right? Years later, I ended up getting exposed to Phil Tippett, and, we were talking, and as we, talking the same way we're talking here, and I mentioned this film, and he goes, oh, you did that? And he's like, yeah, I really like, and I was like, hold up. I'm like, what? I'm like, you're the guy who did the stop motion animation?
Phil Tippett is complimenting my work.
Okay, who's Phil Tippett?
He's a ED209.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And he did all the hollow chess.
See, she knows that
I
reference.
know that reference.
Yes.
She knows that reference.
I'm a huge RoboCop fan, by the way, and I will definitely have to do a special on RoboCop. But he also did the stop motion animated chess pieces in Star Wars, and then he went and did the Tauntauns and the Walkers. And I'm going, oh, in this sequence, I was trying to emulate what you did in this shot, and then we're talking, and I'm like, this is like a full circle thing. Like, it's a really crazy. It's like you went and put this out there. And then, like, somewhere along the line, I'm like, you were talking about it before,
that
putting
was
things
the
into
payment.
films.
That was the payment.
Yeah.
100%.
Phil Tippett having
100%.
a conversation, that was the payment.
Who knew of the film? Who knew and looked at it as a stop motion animator who has won, Academy Awards for his work and knew it existed. And I'm like, and one of the things that I just wanted to share, I always thought this was just normal. I thought you go out and you put your work and the whole universe just drops it into people's laps, and they may know it, they may not know it, or you just happen to go and speak to someone. And it's only been in the last couple of years, because as I've gotten older and as my life has gone into a new stage, I have responsibilities, and I can't just jump on a plane and go back to LA where, these amazing opportunities could be. And in the last couple of years, I'm like, wow, this is a completely different life for me, because I'm not, running around with my hair on fire at Mach 2 and trying to work out how to get a shot done or try to work out what's going on. And I was speaking to some other people, and they were like, Gil, you know what? Your life's not over, but what you've been able to achieve is a real achievement. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not Spielberg, and I'm not Lucas, and no one knows me, and no one. And they go, yeah, but you know what? You have this amazing life experience that, you followed your heart, right? When everyone went, hey, we're 7 and we like Star Wars, you went, I'm 7 and I want to learn everything about it and try to do something similar.
Right.
Because it captured my imagination. And it's only been in the last year or 6 months that I've really kind of gone, wow, if I had known that I was exposed to these things, I probably would have stopped me. But just because it was just like, whoa, what do you mean I can't wake up and walk onto Paramount set? Or what do you mean that I can't go and have a conversation with someone and then work my way onto the crew? Or what are you talking about that I want to go to UCLA and someone goes, they don't accept anyone. And I'm like, you know what? I got nothing better than time. Let me go and do all the applications and throw it out there. And it's just, again, that's that element of maybe I will never get to make another film. Maybe I will never get to make a feature that ends up in the theater and everyone gets to see it. Wow, they're cool. But you know what? It's like you say, Wyatt, those elements of my life make me incredibly happy. And to be, if it wasn't for that experience when I got to meet you, both of you at AFM, and you and I started talking, Wyatt, and we were finishing each other's sentences, and we knew exactly what we were talking about. We knew the films we were talking about the techniques. I remember when you turned to me and said, oh, I was a Predator in Predator 2 at the end. And I'm like, no shit. Seriously? I'm like, the fuck are you talking to me for? Like, I'm a guy from Australia who's just trying to sell a project. You are Predator? And I'm like, yeah, I remember calling home, and I'm like, my mom's is all like, hey, how's it going over there? Have you sold the project? I'm like, sold the project? Dude, I'm friends with a Predator from Predator 2. And she's like, Predator? And I go, the guy who just keeps killing people. And she's like, yeah, why did he kill people? Like, she's still asking the question. She's like, I showed her the film. She's like, why is he killing all these people? Why is he angry? Did they steal something from him? What's going on? And I'm like, no, it's just an alien that comes and kills people. And she's like, but why? And literally in that call, she literally said to me, she's like, oh, you mean the one that he kills people? Go ask your friend why he was killing people. And I'm like, oh, I love you. I love you. I love you.
You're burying the lead, Mom. You're burying the lead. In all of this, the working for free, not working for free. Right now, I'm building props for my friend Chris, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, he pulled together a budget. It's not a huge budget, but he pulled together a budget. I'm pretty sure he was prepared to pay me. It wouldn't have been much. It would have been a nominal fee. It would have been a flat rate. Here, build me these props. I'll give you X amount of money. I basically said, don't worry about money, Chris, because I know exactly the boat he's in. And there's a mutual... I know Chris wasn't trying to take advantage of me. It was a compliment, like your friend with the armature. It was a compliment that he asked me because he trusted me and he knew... It's like, the guy to go to here is Wyatt Weed. And I was like... And because he's a filmmaker and he works very similar to the way I do... I just told him, listen, Chris, I'm not worried about the money. I want to get reimbursed for what this is going to physically cost me to buy materials. And he's like, oh, bless your heart. But I also know that Chris will be there for me. Chris in the future, if I ask Chris for a favor, as a matter of fact, a few years ago, I needed World War II era military costumes. Chris had them from a film he'd made. And he was like, yeah, come over. It's like, whatever you need. And that's, that's the film community that we're part of, and I enjoy that. And when I have money, I give it to people. When I don't have money, and you come out and help me, trust me, when I do have money, people don't realize that.
Yeah.
If you come out for me when I don't have money, I will be there for you when I do have money. You will be the first one. Some people just want to get something for nothing. Other people will repay those favors.
It's not just a favor. Like, if I'm going to work with someone, if I'm going to work on a production, I'm going to put my heart and soul and then usually money out of my own pocket. I want people who are going to be there, right? And the people who are there when there's nothing there are the people that are going to be there. And they're going to be the first people who are hired when you get a budget. I mean, there's been so many great examples of that in my life as well, where, struggling as a student, a friend of mine, we went to film school together, and he's like, I've got a corporate video to do, and I need a hand. Gil, can you come out? And it's like, cool, yeah. And it's like, this is the budget. Is this enough? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then we ended up doing graphic stuff and putting it all together. And it was just like, that led to actually his first feature where he needed someone to do the special extras. And I was like, what do you need? And he goes, here's the interviews, do whatever you want to do. And I said, that's a dangerous thing to say. Are you sure you want me to do whatever you want me to do? And he goes, look, let me know what you want to do, but let's go and do whatever you want to do. And this independent was about some some people who lived in the country who came into a city, and they kind of terrorized all the criminals and stuff, and the police didn't want them there because they were doing a better job keeping the place safe, and they became cult things and all the rest of it. So the actual behind the scenes became a continuation of the storyline. So there was a detective, and it starts with like his files that were in a garage that someone finds, and they open up, and then they're talking all about the film. And I continued the same style in the thing.
Right.
It was so much fun to work on because we were working on together. And at the end of it, he's like, "We're selling this, but there isn't really a budget." And I'm like, "That's cool. That's all right." I don't know why, but it was released in the UK with the extra features, and it won an award. Like, it won an award for extra features on a DVD. And I'm like, "Are you kidding?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Here's the award." I'm like, "I don't want it. You have it." I'm like, he goes, "But you're the director." And I'm like, "All right, cool, whatever." But it's just this little thing that happens to I didn't even know there were awards for extras on DVDs. I guess because everyone's all like, "Hi, we made this film, whatever." And I'm like, it's the sequel to the film as such. And a lot of it was shot with a video camera from first person. So at the place I was renting at the time, like, I jimmy the door, like I'm breaking into the thing, and like I had a lot of fun doing it. It was just completely slammed together. And it was just a lot of fun to be able to go and do. And again, you never know what that leads to. So it's an amazing. It's just there seems to be a theme in a couple of these podcasts that we've done, which is, if you're passionate about it and you're willing to do the work, don't be afraid to go and explore, because that's when things happen. And I think that, all of these things, whether, if people are going to be abusive and it doesn't work for you, don't be afraid to walk away. I remember, with the story I just told you, when I went to the DP and I said to him, "I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to leave." He said, "Listen, if you want to be a filmmaker, you have to have a little bit of gumption and resilience." And I went, "That's okay. Not a problem. I mean, I got it. You don't know who I am. You don't know what I've been through and all the rest of it. Cool. If you think that it got a little hard or whatever, well, this is your department. It's not my job to be able to go and do that." And I did kind of take it a little personally, because I remember when I told them that, the first thing they did was they didn't go and say, "Hey, what can we do?" They just were like, "We'll find someone else." And I was just like, "All right, cool, man. Like, I'm all in for hazing and all the stuff of it, but it's got to be a line. There's got to be a line." And when that film came out, it disappeared. Every couple of years I go and check who the head of the camera department, what he's doing now. Never done anything else. I really think he was a guy they just found at the pub, and he's like, "Yeah, I got a job for 6 weeks," and it was just flexing. And I was like, "Yeah, cool, man."
So I think we're coming to an end on this episode of Cinematic Perspective. A lot of good advice, a lot of good life experience here, a lot of good in the trench stories.
I really hope that our listeners, our viewers are getting a lot out of what we share, that we're just hanging out talking about.
They're getting the true brain dump.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting the true, just like, blah.
Yeah.
What it's like. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go call my therapist. I've got to go work through some of the things we talked about. But,
I'm going to go to bed. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to bed.
Don't think that what we're talking about is negative either. These are just experiences, and if you're prepared for them, sometimes you're going to walk into places and it's going to work for you. Sometimes they're not going to. But if you're aware of it, I think that, especially in Hollywood, you think what you see is a very polished production, not just for the finished film, but also the press junkets. When do you ever hear an actor go, "I really didn't like working with that actor," or "I really didn't like working with the director"? It never happens. Of course, human beings always have issues, but you don't present them because you don't want to bring something negative to, the day an actor goes, "Yeah, you know what? I hated that director. He wanted me to do this. I'm going to go to that film and support it 100%. But just be aware that there are things.
Well, or sometimes you notice there's a distinct lack of an actor or a performer outdoing press. Rather than go out there and talk smack, they just choose not to.
Absolutely.
They just choose not to go out.
We'll do a whole episode on the exciting and fun experiences and the good
absolutely.
stuff.
Sure.
On set,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I can think off the top of my head, The Abyss. Another talking to James Cameron today, but Mary Elizabeth Master Antonio had such a bad experience with it. She would never talk about the film, and she was not in any of the press junkets or the makings, but there's a reason why. It wasn't just that Cameron was a monster or anything like that. the way he would expect a performance was to be naturalistic, and he would want to get a result. And there was a few things that were very
We're not animals.
bearing.
We're not animals.
Yes, you know the scene, but for
I
those
know the
people who
scene.
don't know,
Oh, yeah.
there's a scene where she has drowned and they're trying to resuscitate her, and Ed Harris is actually slapping her in the face, but he's a method actor, so he's really slapping her. He's really slapping her in the face and screaming at her and is like, "Don't die!" And Cameron's just go, "Do it again, do it again, do it again." And he got to the point where she's like, "We're not animals. You can't just keep doing that. You can't just, and that obviously burnt a bit of a bridge. So, everything to the craft, but at the same time, you got to understand that actors are actors and they are people. But, there's some amazing moments that we also try to share that, they may not be just monetary or success or fame, but as an artist, as someone who wants to create, there are incredible opportunities where you won't realize they're happening at the time, but you'll look back at it and go, that's more of what I want. So with that shared, hang on to those experiences. And you know what? We love being able to share this stuff with you. So again, if you got something out of this, if you enjoy what we're talking about here, whether you enjoy cinema, the behind the scenes, we've got lots of stuff we're going to talk about. Wait till we start talking about genre. If you think this is interesting, wait till we start talking about what brought us here and what we're passionate about. The best way not to miss any of this sort of stuff is to follow us on your favorite application that you're getting your podcasts. If you're interested in seeing our faces, maybe you're just hearing these voices and going, "Hey, that Wyatt Weed guy, I want to know what he looks like. Does he look like an old Bruce Wayne?" You can check that out on our YouTube at Cinematic Perspective. And you know what? We love to get feedback. So you can either send us an email or get on social media. Let us know. Maybe you've got a story. Maybe you've worked on a production that it was horrible and you want to share your pain with us and we can share it to the masses. Or maybe you had a fantastic experience. Or maybe you want to work with us. Who knows? We would love to hear from you. And until next time, until I get to be incredibly selfish and talk to my two good friends, Wyatt and Gayle, I hope you guys have a great week. Go make something amazing. And Wyatt, Gayle, thank you so much.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Take it easy.